So we are, I'm told, in 98A, the top, 3 lines from the top, and we're discussing some of the most interesting, I guess you would say, scenarios that the Gemara can come up with. Okay, so we had a brisa that said that if you have two brothers who were born to a mother who converted after conception but before birth, so they were conceived. In other words, the father's part in it was done while the mother was still not Jewish, and then she converted, and they were born Jewish. Okay, so are they? So they are maternal brothers, but not considered paternal brothers. Okay, so Amar Rabba says, "How do you Amar Rabba in Avla Mitzri?" When the rabbi said that that there's no paternal relationship between a Jew and his non-Jewish father. Lo tema mishum d'shtufi b'zima d'loyedia. We're not saying that that it's because we don't know who the father is, right? We're not accusing the non-Jews of that we don't know who the father is. Aval yedia chayshinan, but in other words, if we did know for sure that this was the father, then we would consider them paternal brothers. No, that's not the case. Even if we did know who the father is for sure, we're not gonna. It's because of the change of status, right? This is what we've assumed all along, but we're just confirming it now that the paternal relationship is kind of severed by the act of conversion. And the proof is that if you have two twin brothers, basically they're conceived at the same time, and so we know that they have the same father, right? So it's not like with the two brothers, maybe one has a different father and the other is a different father and the other is a different one. No, in the case of twins, it's the same father, right? And still, the Katani Seifa, we have in the Graisa, there's no concern that they may be considered brothers. There's no chalitza, there's no yibum. They're completely, if one brother dies, the wife is completely free. So we conclude from that, Afkure Rahman Razari. No, it's because the Torah rule is that when you convert, you sever your relationship with the non-Jewish father. It's not considered your father like Dichsiv. And what is the source for that? Basar chamarim basaram their flesh is that of donkeys, and it's a verse from Ezekiel, and the flow from them, in other words, their sperm is like horses. In other words, we read into that we don't consider them related. A little bit of a harsh way to go going about that. Tashma. The Amar Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi says, Masi ben Niftaim Hager. There was this guy, a convert whose name was Niftaim. Shanasa Eshes Akiv Meima. Married his brother from his mother. Okay, so and then and there was he married his brother's wife, right? So that's not allowed if you're Jewish, but if you're not related to the brother, then she's like somebody else's wife, right? Not at the same time, but obviously the first brother died or divorced or whatever. So since they allowed him, and subsequently they said it was okay. So he went ahead and did this, and then the case came to the sages. And they said it's not considered marriage. Okay, in other words, the fact that the brother that it's his brother's wife, it doesn't matter because he's converted after and they're no longer considered brothers. But the way the Gemara states it though is because the marriage didn't count, right? So Velager the Kaddish Hachinami Lakosi Bakidushin. So what? So what are you saying, that if they did get married, that it wouldn't work? No. What we're saying is Ein Isur Ashes Ach. Not that there's no, not that a ger can't get married. It's that it doesn't. There's no problem with marrying your brother's wife if you're a convert, because that's from your previous life, and they're not considered related. My love the Nosva Ach Keshugi. Now, what are we talking about? We're talking about where the brother, like he first he converted, and then the brother married the wife, right? So now they're not brothers anymore, right? So doesn't that so that that so the so this supports Rav Acha, who said that this is allowed. Why says no? No, we're talking about everybody was not Jewish. The brother married the woman, and then he converted. Then the brother converted. So then the Gemara says, well, that's too obvious. Who cares? Like, he doesn't have, as a non-Jew, he never had a prohibition of marrying his brother's wife. So the answer is maybe because he became a convert, then like we're going to be like more concerned of the case of the problem that when he was still not Jewish, his brother had this wife. So now that he's Jewish, you can let him off the hook. No, we're not going to do that. So I would have thought maybe we would say that. So this tells you it's not the case. Kamash 1, you tell us that no, we don't have such a concern. Again, once you've converted, you've severed your family relationships to the non-Jewish side of the family. Tashma. Diamar ben Yassin, this guy ben Yassin said, when I went to the seaside, I came across a person, a ger, a convert, who married his maternal brother's wife. I said, who told you this is okay? He said, Hare Isha Vashiva Banea. Here's another woman. She's got a convert. She's got 7 sons, and the sons converted, and they also went and married each other's wives. So that was a good precedent for me. And Rabbi Akiva sat on this very bench where you're sitting, and Rabbi Akiva said, it's allowed for a convert to marry his brother's widow. Yamar. And also he said, second thing that he said, this is kind of unrelated, but the Gemara will deal with it anyway. In the book of Jonah, after the incident where he's swallowed by the fish, then God speaks to him again and says, you know what, go back to Nineveh and prophesy as I told you. But it says God spoke to him the second time, which implies that God did not speak to him a third time. That was the last time that he prophesied. Total side note, but something Rabbi Akiva said, in the recollection of this guy. So anyway, we'll come back to that in a minute. But so Rabbi Akiva's first statement was that the ger, the convert, can marry his brother's wife. So doesn't that backs up Rav Acha? So the answer is no, maybe not. That case is where the first brother married her when he was not Jewish. So we have the same question. So, like, isn't it obvious? I would have thought they would be more concerned because now that he's Jewish, he can, it seems like things are more permissible. No, we don't worry about that in this case. So now the Gemara says, well, wait a second. This guy is testifying on his own behalf. He's saying, I married this woman. You know why? Because Rabbi Akiva was here last year and he said it was okay. Why do we believe this guy? The Rabbi Abba said, if you have a Torah scholar who teaches a rule that was not known before to his colleagues, if he was doing it in the abstract, like before an actual case came to him, then we believe him. But if not, if he's dealing with a particular case and he says, "Oh, you know what? I never told you that this is the rule, but this is the rule." No, then you don't do it, right? It's then it seems like he is. I wouldn't go far and say he's making it up, and maybe he's influenced by the facts of the case, or his involvement with the case. Then we don't buy it if he's ruling on a specific case. And again, this is talking about a new rule, right? It's like, oh, I never, here's a new rule I never told you. So wait a second. So if that's the case, so why do we believe this guy? This guy is dealing with a particular case, right? Or maybe it was Rabbi Akiva. Just a second. Yeah, he's even quoting Rabbi Akiva. Like I think it's saying that Rabbi Akiva was dealing with a specific case, and he came up with this new rule. So why would we, why do we follow Rabbi Akiva then? So the answer is, no, that this was not Rabbi Akiva's first time saying this rule. He had said this rule, and now he was repeating it in this particular case in which it was relevant. Or you can answer Mishum Dekamar Hare Isha B'Shiva Baneha. Or you could say that he's talking about his own case, but he's quoting a previous case. He's quoting a previous case. It's not a new rule, right? Or you can answer and here he has more credence. Maybe it is a new rule that he's bringing up for his particular case, but he has more credibility because he's quoting it in a wider context. He says, Rabbi Akiva said A and B. Oh, and by the way, A supports B. But the fact that he included the second thing indicates that he's really remembering what happened, not that he is influenced by or even making up what happened. And now we're going to just sidestep again for a minute and deal with this thing about Jonah that Rabbi Akiva also said. We said before, that God spoke to Yonah a second time, which means that was the last time. There was no third time. But wait a minute, we have another verse in Kings, talking about the king Yeravam. It says that Yeravam, reclaimed some territory. As God had spoken to Yonah the prophet. Okay, who seems like the same guy, Yonah ben Amittai. It seems like the same prophet. So it seems like God did speak a third time to Jonah. Ravina answers, no, when we say that God didn't speak to him a third time, it was on that topic, on the topic of the book of Jonah, in which he was prophesying about the city of Nineveh. That God didn't speak to him about again, but he was still a prophet, and he still had other communications from God. For example, the one that's referred to in Kings. Rav Nachman says, "This is what it means." When the book of Kings says that as God had spoken, like he spoke to Jonah, it doesn't mean that this is what he told Jonah. It means he spoke to a prophet as he had spoken to Jonah, which is a little forced, but okay. In other words, just as God had spoken to Yonah, and the result was that the city of Nineveh saved itself, so too God spoke to some other prophet, and the result was that Israel reclaimed territory. Like I said, a little forced, but okay. Okay, so we're back to the case of the ger who marries his brother's wife. Tashma, another proof. A convert who was conceived as a non-Jew, but his mother then converted before the birth, and so he's born Jewish. Okay, so he has a Jewish connection to his mother, but not to his father, or according, that's what we're arguing about. Yeshlo she'erayim. So this Brisa says he has relatives through his mother, because he was born Jewish to a Jewish mother. Ve'lo she'erav, but he does not have relationships through his father, because his father, when he was conceived, his mother and father were not Jewish. Okay, so what does this mean? He doesn't have his relationship. If he married a sister, a half sister, his mother, a maternal sister, then he has to cancel it. He has to divorce her. It's like because he's related through his mother, and it's a real relationship. But if he married his paternal sister, then he can keep her because, again, because he's not formally related to her. Doesn't seem like a great idea genetically, but all right. And a sister of his father. Yeah, if he marries his aunt, right, his maternal, his father's maternal sister, he has to divorce her. But if he married a paternal sister of his father, he can stay with her. We'll see why in a minute. Or will we? Well, the reason is that we're going to keep him away from any maternal like half sibling relationships that has any maternal side to it, so that we'll remain kind of consistent, right? So people won't get confused. Like they'll have this hard and fast rule. Oh, in this case, if there's a maternal sibling, then we're going to consider them related. That's an easier, hard and fast rule to remember. Even though, since this is the maternal sister of his father and he's not related to his father, it shouldn't be a problem. Right. But just to keep things simple, we're going to outlaw any sibling relationships that have a maternal connection. Continuing on, similarly, if he married his aunt on his mother's side, if it's a maternal aunt, maternal relationship, then he has to divorce her. And but if it's a paternal sister of his mother, then we have an argument. So Meir says he can't keep her. The rabbis say that he can keep her. So even though there's a maternal factor here, it's not a maternal sister, it's his maternal aunt. Okay, it's unclear like why they would, make that distinction. I don't know that. But why did Rameir say he has to get rid of her? Call because Rameir is being consistent. He's saying let's keep it simple. Anytime there's a maternal sibling relationship, let's stay away from it. If it's paternal, if everything is paternal, then then he's in the clear. Then there's no relationship. And the Bryce goes on, Mutar ba'eshes achiv, and he can marry his brother's wife. That's the case that we're concerned with, right? U'ba'eshes achi aviv, and the wife of his uncle, his father's brother. U'she'ar kol harayos mutar. So any other relationships through marriage he's okay with, because again, as he converted, he's no longer related to those people. So Morris says, does this include his father's wife? And yes, it does include any like he's really not related to his father, so his father's wife, not a problem. And Nasa Isha Bita, if he married a woman and her daughter. So, second. Okay. So, before he converted, he married a mother and her daughter. Okay, not a problem for a non-Jew, right? Then he converts. Now he's still married to a mother and her daughter, right? Albeit that they are not Jewish, but still a mother and a daughter. So kones achos umotiach. Then he has to choose. He has to he can only keep one. And really, he shouldn't have married them in the first place. Tomorrow we'll explain what that means. And then let's say he chose, if one of them died, if he chose the one and she died, so ordinarily you'd still not be allowed to marry the mother, right? If you had married the daughter died, you'd still not be allowed to marry the mother ordinarily. But that's that is. Yeah, so that is the case. But since these wives are not Jewish, then we don't push, right? If one of them is no longer around, then he's allowed with the other. Because also but others say that no, that even if the daughter dies, the mother is still off limits. So okay, but the point was buried in all of those details. This Brisa said that he can marry his brother's wife. My love, the Nasra Achiv Kishugir. Are we? Is it not talking about where when he was still not Jewish, his brother married this woman, and then he converted, and he's allowed to marry the brother's wife. Warren says not necessarily the Nasra Kishugir. Could be that he married her when he was still a non-Jew. So then is the obvious, as we said before. I might think that we should, try to be simple and consistent, as we've seen all along. Gosh, one tells us no, it's not a problem. We said before, we said before, if you had married a woman and a daughter, and then you have to only keep one. And you shouldn't even do it in the first place. So what does that mean? You shouldn't do it in the first place. We're talking about when he was not Jewish. Like, if you're telling me that if they're already married, you have to choose one and reject the other one. So of course it means that you can't do it in the first place. So awesome. No, we're talking about the earlier cases. So that's what it means. All those women that we said it's okay to remain with, like the half sibling on the father's side, then like it's okay to keep them, but it's not something that we recommend. Now, basically, the last thing we said was if the daughter dies, he's married to a woman and her mother, and the daughter dies, he can marry the mother. Because Tani also but others say you're not, you can't. Chada Rabbi Shmuel, Chada Rabbi Akiva. One of these versions accords with Rabbi Shmuel, and the other with Rabbi Akiva. Mandi Asher Rabbi Shmuel. The one that says it's forbidden is Rabbi Shmuel, who says that the prohibition against marrying the mother is still in effect even after the daughter dies. The Gabi Ger goes to Baraban, and the rabbis extended this to apply to the convert. The Shari Rabbi Akiva, and it's Rabbi Akiva who would allow it. Saying, yeah, you can't marry your mother and daughter, but after the daughter dies, it's such a weak relationship that we're not concerned about it. The Gabi Ger goes to Baraban. So if it happens to a ger, to a convert, then there's another factor, since he's not related to them in the first place anyway. So we allow it. Okay. The next Mishnah, this is going to be kind of fun, so hold on to your hat. There are 5 women that give birth, and the babies get mixed up. So you have five excuse me, 5 boys whose mother is unknown, right? They belong to one of these 5 women, but you don't know which one belongs to who. So they grow up, and they all got married. Okay, and we're assuming that each one of the mothers already had a son, right? So each one of these mixed up babies has a brother. We just don't know who it is. It's one of these 5 people. Okay, and now all 5 of them, they get married and the wives die, right? So what do? On one hand, we know that they have a brother and they require yibum. On the other hand, we don't know which one, right? Which is the brother? You've got a choice of 5 here that is not, you can't really determine. And the biggest problem is that unless they're released by the other ones, then you can't do yibum unless they're released by all the other ones, right? Because you don't know which is which. So what do? Take the first widow. 4 of the brothers do chalitza, which may or may not be meaningful, because maybe they're the brothers, maybe they're not. Okay, but if they are, then the chalitza is effective. And then the fifth guy, the echad miyam, and then the fifth guy, he marries because either he's the brother, right? So of the dead guy, of the widow's dead husband. So then he performs Yibum, and that's how it's supposed to be. And if he's not the brother, well, everybody else has done Chalitza. So whoever the real brother was in the group that did Chalitza. So then she's free to marry anybody. So she's to marry him. Okay, clever. And then what do you do with the rest of them? Who shlosha chaltzin liachas? They have 4 women left. So the guy who married and 3 others do Chalitza to the second widow, and then the remaining brother the remaining guy marries her. Again, the same thing. Either chalitza has been performed by one of the other 4, or he's the brother and he can and the yibum is valid, and so on and so forth. So it turns out that every brother is doing chalitza 4 times and yibum 1 time. So actually, I got sidetracked a little bit. There's an interesting question here. Well, this way, you don't know, like it could be that nobody married the right woman, right? That everybody did chalitza, everyone, that all the chalitzas were effective, or a chalitza was effective to each woman, and she married somebody outside the family. Or it could be that they all got it right. That's the chance of 1/5 factorial. Right, it's one chance in 120 that they all got it right, and somewhere in between there's a possibility that some got it right and some didn't. Right, so the question is, what's better? Right, if one guy marries all, let's say 4 of them do chalitza, and then one guy marries all 5 of them, right? So in that case, 100% certainty one of them was his brother's widow. Right, and the others were not. But at least that one woman, one yibum was performed correctly. The other option is where we do this thing where each one of them marries one of the widows. They're using all this multiple chalitza strategy. Then there's a chance that none of them did it right, a chance that all of them did it right, and a chance somewhere in between, right? So which is preferable? The Mishnah seems to prefer the rolling the dice, and maybe you'll have more yibums this way, or maybe less. But the Mishnah seems to prefer rolling the dice. Of course, the Mishnah might not be expressing a preference, or it could be that it's probably better for 5 men to marry 5 women rather than 1 to marry 5 women. Okay. Anyway, it's a clever way to get around the problem. And again, this is not likely to have been a real case, but the Mishnah is kind of investigating the parameters and the limits of as it often does. So Mar says the dafka michlot you have to do it. Sorry, you have to do chalitza first, and then the yibum. Obviously, you can't do the yibum first, then the chalitza. Then the chalitza that we're hoping will take effect, whichever one it is, it's too late. Because that way, obviously, there's a large chance that when the yibum is done, it's without permission because the chalitza hasn't been done yet. There is a chance that he's the right brother, in which case it's fine, but there's a greater chance that the chalitza really has to be done first by the other guys. So now, the Gemara asks, "Ma'hu shlosha chosim liachas?" The second step, why does the guy who married the first widow and 3 others have to do chalitza? So here the Gemara is asking, the question like why don't we just do the same procedure with all 5 women? The 4 brothers do chalitza, and the one guy marries them all, right? So the answer is because we don't want to suggest that it's better that the 5 guys marry the 5 women rather than one marries the 5. Because because maybe, it'll work out right. Like maybe more people, more men will have fulfilled the responsibility of you. And yeah, I started trying to calculate, the odds, and I got bogged down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I got I got distracted by something else. But interesting if you're into statistics, interesting little project. Ton of rabbis. You know what? This is a good place. Yeah, this is a good place. Now we'll go to the bottom. Ton of rabbis. Not. What if you have a case where some of them are brothers and some are not brothers? The ones who are brothers do a chalitza, and the other ones do yibum. So first one says, like, my comment, what are you talking about? What was this case? Some are brothers and some are not brothers. This is what it means. If some of them were paternal brothers and some were maternal brothers, then, in other words, all of the surviving sons had a paternal brother in the group, and some of them also had maternal brothers, right? So they were both full brothers. So then, so who do you choose to do the chalitza, and who do you choose to do the yibum? Choose the one who's a full brother. Let him do the yibum. What if there's some are kohanim and some are not kohanim? So because the kohen can't marry, the kohen has to do the kohen can't marry a woman who's undergone chalitza, right? He can marry a widow, right? Unless he's kohen gadol, leave that aside. But he can marry a widow. In other words, he can do yibum, but he can't marry a woman who's undergone chalitza. So in this case, since it's unclear what's happening, right? So the kohanim should be the ones doing the chalitza, and the non-kohanim should be the ones doing the yibum. Shein kohanim miyamin. Yeah. Mitzas and kohanim, mitzas and achim. When you have some of them are kohanim and some of them are full brothers, elu cholzim b'lo miyamin. So all of those people should do chalitza and not yibum. Okay, so that's just a question of preference because they have a closer relationship. And this is where we can stop for today and pick it up tomorrow.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay.
See you tomorrow. Have a good day.
You too.